Hello everyone, so today I am getting around to changing out the nozzle on my 7300E Crown Royal wood burner. I'm actually doing the upgrade kit, so if any of you aren't familiar with my videos, I have a E-Series, it's a 2019, so if you're watching this video or some of my others, some of the features are a little dated compared to the new models, so if you are in the hunt or shopping for a new wood burner, some of these things that I talk about may not be applicable anymore to the newer ones. My in-laws also have the MP series, so you'll see that I have videos on both. I especially have a comparison video that I'll try and put a link to up here. If you are looking for a comparison of the models and which I would choose it if I was, having to do it over again. But my focus in this video is upgrading this nozzle. The nozzle, it is a consumable, so it is 4 years old, and I'll show you some pictures or videos here of how my nozzle is just opened up, ate up. It's not as efficient. They, like I said, changed the design a little bit so that me replacing the nozzle here, there's a lot more involved to it than if your newer one came with this nozzle already. So for perspective, just for people out there, and this is in 2023, the kit to upgrade, which again is more than just the nozzle if you already have it, the kit to upgrade is roughly $600 to $700. So I won't get into my thoughts on having to do that 4 years in. And again, you don't have to do the upgrade kit. I would have needed a nozzle anyway, which could have been cheaper. But still, after a couple years, you are going to have to replace that. I seem to be fairly lucky that I got 4 years out of mine, but anyways, I don't want to get sidetracked with that in this video. So I've got the instructions for this upgrade kit. I hope this will help someone if anyone else is thinking about it or needs better instructions. I wasn't super impressed with the instructions provided. But yeah, let's just jump into it and quit talking. So this is looking in on my nozzle, and it didn't look great at the beginning of last season, and I decided to nurse it one more season. So if you look in the back, and I'll try and point out with my finger, the real white part there, that is the original width of the nozzle. And so you can kind of see how it is just kind of deteriorated and fell apart, and it just makes it really less efficient also. But yeah, anyways, so you'll see kind of in the clips here how we'll remove that, but we'll actually start with the instructions on removing, heck, I forget what it's called, but it's in the back of the stove. So let's jump to that. Okay, so looking at the back of the stove here, I've got the back door off. Again, the older ones had the door that you lift off, the newer ones, they swing open. But this lower door's out, and the older series had this secondary, kind of air box here. And that tube goes to the front. So we are actually going to take this out, no longer need it. How I got that out before is, there's supposed to be a bolt here that you undo and it slides out. Well, it just broke off, so it's under friction still. So I take a hammer and I use the pointy side, and I'm able to tap back on it from the front, and we'll get that out. Alright, sorry, so after lots of pounding, I shouldn't say pounding, tapping, it's more light tapping, this whole old assembly comes out. Don't need it anymore. There is a hole up here that feeds into this box, the bottom of this box. Hence that's kind of what fed down into here. And the system, I don't know if I can show it in the video. So it's kind of plugged up with creosote there. But it's there on the left. It says otherwise to plug that with a bolt, something to seal it. So there we have it. All right, now on to step 2. I think on to the firebox. All right, step 2, clean out the firebox. Well, I knew I was going to be doing this at the end of last season. So it's not too bad in here. So let me get a light on here. So how this works is this is a slab here in the center, like here, like right here. There's a line, there's that line, and we gotta find a way to get that piece out. They have to come out in pieces. You can see like here I've got creosote build up pretty bad or things. I don't really have to worry about that. What I really need to worry about is back here though, because the plates and everything will be different. So they have to clean out some of that. And then, well, yeah, this is pretty ugly right here. So I don't know, we'll see what we can do to get that out. And I think step 3 is removing the pieces. Let me see here. Yeah, step 3 is remove all of the air panels, because those panels back there actually get changed out. With the upgrade, you get new ones. So, all right, well, let me clean this up a little bit. See if I can get these pieces out. Okay, so got this somewhat cleaned out. You can see here in the back, I was able to get this cleaned out pretty well. Along this edge here, got cleaned out pretty well before I took this piece out. Went ahead and did some of the sides and things while I was at it. So how I did it, I'm going to say this carefully. I used a 1/2-inch wood chisel and a hammer, and I did not hammer it out. I just lightly tapped it out using the chisel. You know, making sure I'm never into the metal and all that. You know, don't want to damage this multi-$1,000 investment, but just enough to kind of break it up slowly. Sometimes you get lucky and it'll come off in a big chunk. Other times it just, yeah, didn't want to come out. And hence, you know, you'll see like I still have it in the corners just because it didn't want to come out. So, you know, I'm not going to force it and cause damage, do things I shouldn't do. So anyway, once I had it cleaned up enough, satisfied, especially at the ends, to get this out, I started hammering right here. I took a hand sledge and started tapping, and it started moving it up. It actually broke it in half, basically. I'll show you. I pulled it out here. So it actually broke it here, and that was fine. Then I just kept tapping it, working it out, and finally the thing crumbled. So honestly, if you want to just break it, it would probably come out a heck of a lot easier. It's just a lot of my tapping made it finally break. So again, you can see how wide and open that is. So alright, per the instructions, step 4, step 4 was to get the center piece out. I think we got to install a little air plate. Let me grab it here. Alright, so here's step 4. It's this piece here. It's supposed to sit on this back piece, but then sit against that. Well, you can see sort of this piece isn't back far enough. So I actually need to tap this piece back such that it can sit there and against that. So guess we'll use like a 2x4 or something and tap it from the front gently if possible, and we'll get this plate in. Alright, so I was using a 2x4 and a hand sledge to hit that thing, bounce it back, and the dang thing just wasn't quite going far enough for my comfort, because the last thing I want is that plate to be able to slide down if it's not all the way back enough or seated enough. Well, let me take it to the back of the stove for a minute. So I don't know if my piece was supposed to be back that far all along, but somehow wasn't. But anyway, you can see that little tab right there, and that's a stop that keeps it from coming back any further. So I actually cleaned out the ash in front of that stop, because, you know, a little bit of ash, 1/4 inch or whatever, was 1/4 inch that I couldn't scoot it back. So maybe clean that up. If you have to scoot your piece back, make sure it's clean in front of that. I used like an ash vac and a brush, and yeah, so we'll get that plate in now. So here's kind of what I'm saying. is I'm all the way against that stop, but that plate you know, we're gonna put a piece in here, and is that really gonna be enough to keep that from falling down? So when I clean out the bottom of the stove, I'm gonna have to be mindful and watch for this piece. I don't know. I'm not a fan of that fix, but whatever. We'll see if it works. All right, so update that little tab in the back. I had to draw this back out. There was some real hard stuff that I had to scrape with a screwdriver or scraper. Got me back a little bit further. It's still not great, but anyways. So now step 5 is install this rear refractory piece. And then the arrows are not very clear. And you know, it could be as easy as a color printout with lines that are a different color that tell you where to mortar them. But anyway, looks like all along the back side. So they give you with the kit, let's see here. There you go, furnace cement, fireplace mortar. So we'll install that piece, get that in. Alright, so step 6 is to install this lower middle piece. I don't have it pushed all the way back so that you could see the gap, or not gap, but what will need to be mortared now. Oh, I will say, you know, this picture doesn't show the end that is filled in, but put that towards the front right there. And then step 7 is install this block in the front here, and it says mortar all along the sides now, which I didn't do. I just did between them like it said, so hopefully that'll finish everything on the lower end here. Well, to my worst fear, this was so tight going in that as I was tapping it in with the hammer, this broke some. And again, I know it's ceramic, you gotta be careful. I was being careful, but it was so tight, it just was not going in, dropping in like I'd hoped. So I gotta see if that's seated underneath, but frustrating. I may just throw some of that mortar on it, and it kind of is what it is. The nozzle should sit over it and hopefully protect it from deteriorating further, but kind of frustrating. Alright, step 8 is apply this top center block. I had to clean out a little bit more to the sides. Didn't realize how wide that was. This here kind of highlights one of my concerns though with this upgrade is the areas along the side. I mean, I've already got creosote built up there, and without a hoe being able to really get in there, I feel like it's just gonna trap stuff in there more, but I don't know, only time will tell. Anyway, so it says make sure it's centered, which it should be, and apply mortar as indicated, which I guess is along here where it mates up with the center block, the upper middle block. So that'll be step 9. Ensure that it lines up, and it says mortar the seams. So let's skip to that. Finally, the last step. So I got that in, got mortar around it. Sorry, the picture may not be great. There we go. Install the air panels. I have them here. These are the new back panels. I wanted to highlight. It has these that I think are meant to guide the air down into the secondary chamber. I gotta see when I hang these. Well, I'll save the spoiler if I need it. Anyways, it talks about there may be a gap between these, and the gap must be filled. And yeah. Alright, so many frustrating hours later, you would think hanging the air panels would be simple, but it was not for me. So apparently the hangers in my stove, the back ones, are lower than some of the later series. When I say later series, like later serial numbers of E-series and whatnot. So Crown apparently has extensions that you can, on the hangers inside the stove, it almost looks like this piece, but then you drill it, you drill a hole and pin it inside to the hanger inside the stove. I started to do that, and then I realized I really didn't like that idea. So what I did, first off, I'm doing this the day of, so I didn't just wait for getting the pieces. But on the old panels, I cut this piece off, this whole piece here on the old panels. And then what I ended up doing, you can see it sticking down lower there, is I screwed it through, and I basically lowered it. And it works. So I'll show you here in a second. I guess before that, not only that, I had an issue with these plates. They didn't fit right. I think it was actually on the other piece. So the other piece has the panel up here and the tab down there, and they were off. So I think it was on the other one. I actually had to cut it so that the whole plate could sit lower. So anyway, a little customization going on here, but if your stove ends up needing to lower this, I don't know, don't want to give too much credit for myself. Thought it went fairly simple. I just drilled some holes, a couple self-tappers, and yeah, we'll be back in business. Alright, so sorry about the bad lighting, but there we go. You can see the new panels, how they go down further. Since I was, customizing the hole where they sit, I've got no gap where they sit between on the tab and the top of the plate there. And got my side panels, the old ones back in. So like I said, you can see, if you look closely, how my custom piece sits on that tab there. And yeah. One thing I wondered, so I talked about how this piece broke up. Someone else may want to try this, if anyone is listening at this point. Since I know going in here, I was fighting the creosote still built up along here to fit that. It was so tight. Down where it sits, there's no creosote. I wonder if you could actually put this piece in, put that piece in, shove them on both ends where they go, and then, the middle piece you want down below there, you want to be very careful because you don't want to hammer and tap that, and you especially don't want to break that piece. But I wonder if with these pieces down where they belong in a clean area, if that would have seated better and I wouldn't have had to tap this in and chance breaking that. So maybe someone else, maybe your stove just has more clearance, but maybe try putting those end pieces in first, unlike the instructions say, and then setting the middle in. I don't know. So well, this was a way bigger pain in the butt process than I had hoped. It took a lot longer than anticipated to clean the stove out, the creosote in it, so that was the biggest time. And modifying those was a total pain in the butt. So let me know if you have any questions. I will give a shout out to Mark Luz. Apologize if I'm not pronouncing his name right. He is the administrator to the Crown Royal Facebook group and was able to answer my questions all along the way because my dealer doesn't have experience with the E-Series. Yeah, and I understand why he promotes more than P-Series. So anyway, feel free to ask questions. Hopefully this was helpful to someone. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know if it was helpful. Obviously I'm trying to do this for other people. I hope I don't have to do this. Even replace any of this anytime soon. So we'll see. Catch you all later.